I've been waiting for the longest time for the Mac Studio, and while the M1 was an impressive package, I still felt like the one that I'd really want was the high performance version coming after. So I skipped the M1 and began the long wait for the next best thing from Apple and Cupertino. I needed something desktop grade. And then the M1 Pro and M1 Max launched on the MacBook Pro. There was a genuine level of excitement inside of me for a M1 Pro or Max 27-inch iMac or Mac Mini, but what we ended up getting was something completely different. We got a completely new and different category called the Mac Studio, and inside it we got a M1 Max on the lower end and a M1 Ultra on the higher end. Now don't get me wrong, the Mac Studio is an absolute beast, but it's not really what I expected. But nonetheless, I still came to grips with what Apple had given us and decided that the M1 Max Mac Studio would be suitable for my workflow and needs. I've never really been an impulse buyer, so I decided to stick it out and wait for reviewers to get their hands on the Mac Studio so I could see what was what when it came to Apple's latest product. In the end, I stuck to my M1 Max as I didn't really see the need to go for an M1 Ultra, especially considering the cost. So I was absolutely ready to splash my hard-earned money on a 10-core CPU, 32-core GPU Mac Studio. But unfortunately, to my surprise, there was a massive wait period of 5 to 6 weeks on deliveries here in Australia, which was a huge disappointment. Now I know for a lot of you, 5 to 6 weeks might not be that much, but remember that I had waited for so long and actually passed up on the M1 Mac Mini a year plus before that, simply because I was waiting for the big dog, which we now know to be the Mac Studio. I was extremely disappointed, and unfortunately I just couldn't wait that long due to commitments at work since I work away from home. So in the spur of the moment, I decided to get a 16GB M1 Mac Mini because I felt I simply had no other choice. I needed something that I could just use right away and hit the ground running without having to worry about long wait periods on deliveries and so on. The M1 Mac that I got was the 256GB model with 16GB of unified memory. And just from a person that got onto the Apple Silicon bandwagon late, this ended up being such a watershed moment for me. It is absolute voodoo how this machine performs. And I know I'm a person that's coming from some more legacy hardware like a late 2013 MacBook Pro, but still I strongly believe that anyone coming from any Intel Macs will be just as surprised as I am because this performance is crazy. I'm able to edit DCI 4K videos in ProRes 422 in absolute silence, which is something I've never experienced before in my entire life. It almost feels like it's some sort of magic trick. This is a computer that I purchased out of frustration and was never meant to be anything long term. I wasn't meant to like this, but all of a sudden, questions have begun to arise on whether or not I actually need a Mac Studio just because of how good this is. And while I will admit that I have experienced macOS beach balling a few times, I strongly believe that this has more to do with my legacy applications not being optimized for Apple Silicon. Whenever it occurs, it's always a very unexpected beach ball freeze that comes up for a few seconds, and then soon after that, everything is back to normal and the usual iPad-like performance is resumed, which is why I strongly believe it's a software optimization issue. And don't even get me started on Final Cut Pro, guys, because this computer literally flies through the program. I edit so flawlessly, and sometimes it's so easy to forget just how much of a big deal this is. It's simply just amazing. I don't know if I'll end up keeping this or selling it and replacing it with a Mac Studio, but one thing I know for sure, this is something that I did not expect, and Apple Silicon is truly groundbreaking. It has also been a huge realization for me that the M1 Mac Mini might actually be powerful enough or very close to being powerful enough for my needs, which was a huge shock because my initial impression of the M1 chip was that, okay, this is the efficiency chip. This won't perform well under high demand workflows. But I was absolutely wrong. And while the M1 does stutter here and there, it's still the fastest experience I have ever experienced on any Mac computer to date, which speaks sums. This video is titled How the Mac Mini Saved My Life because I never thought that this was something that I needed. I was always under the impression that I'd need more. And I'm telling you right now, if you're a PC or Windows user, or even someone coming from legacy Intel-based Macs, Apple Silicon will absolutely change your life. The performance is just unbelievable, even at the entry level, which is just your M1 chip. Thanks for watching, guys, and if you're new to the channel, then make sure you're subscribed for more content like this. Make sure to hit that bell icon to get notified when I upload new videos. Catch you folks in the next one.